Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to an abbreviated version. Normal American Show host Rob Noerr. What's going on with my overlay here? It's kind of a mess, isn't it? Let's it'll be something like this would be better, huh? We'll fix that some other day. Anyways, host Rob Noerr, how you doing? Hope you're doing great. Here's the deal. It's just going to be a short little half-hour stream. I didn't really want to stream yesterday or today. However, I'm trying to get to the criteria I need on TikTok to be able to do live streams from my desktop. So it said that I needed to stream 3 days, basically a half hour at a clip on TikTok. So here's day 3 of that. So I figured I'd come on to a brief half-hour stream before I get to my son's birthday party. That's the plan. So if you're ever on TikTok right now, you get a little behind-the-scenes look from a slightly different angle as I'm streaming from my computer. But I thought, what am I going to talk about today? Now, I haven't watched many football games, but a friend of mine and my son and myself watched the Bills game yesterday. It was a barn burner. Bummer. Came down to sort of penalties and ref calls and what have, but it is what it is. But no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear my stupid football takes, of which I have very little intelligence of. So let's talk about other things that I have very little intelligence of. Politics, that have somehow duped people into listening to what I have to say. But I appreciate those of you that I've duped. Yeah, the other thing is, but you got stuff going for you in Colorado. Like, Buffalo's a pretty bleak place, you know? And then they only have 2 sports teams that I know of, and So, Minnesota last night again. Now, obviously, I have more to say on sort of the entire situation with ICE, left-wing riots, etc. in Minnesota. However, I wanted to focus just on the events of yesterday. While it's fresh in my mind, I see someone saying in the chat that I see about Jake Lang. I did, and that's largely what we're going to be talking about now. Seeing as how I'm on TikTok as well, I'm not going to bring any video up or anything of that nature, which they'd be unable to see. But we will bring up your super chats if you give them. And listen, if we don't send in super chats, then that means the lefties are winning in Minnesota. They'll be very happy. I appreciate all donations you give. I do appreciate. But so what happened yesterday? Well, there's this guy, Jake Lang. Jake was a January 6er. Now, let me start by saying this. I know very little about Jake Lang. I saw a lot of people saying that he's sort of an unscrupulous man, you know, an instigator, an antagonizer, etc., etc. Yeah, I don't care. That's irrelevant to me. I don't know that that's true, but let's assume that it is true, and I still don't care. Doesn't change the story for me. Basically, this man showed up as you would at this point when you're entering left-wing protest, armored, basically, because you know that it's a good chance they'll try to take you out, because that's the left at this point. They are violent lunatics, these people. And so he shows up, and thankfully he was wearing like a tactical vest because it looks as if he was stabbed. They literally, a mob of people chased him and then were trying to rip him apart, limb from limb. Literally. He ends up, it looks like he got stabbed, and then he's covered in blood. Police stand by, do nothing. There was another incident, I believe it was a different person that got beaten with a flag, was bleeding profusely. Left-wing mob, just like you see in places like Portland or Seattle, left-wing mobs patrolled the streets. And anytime they would find someone like that looked like a white guy, they would demand that they denounce ICE, and if not, threaten to beat them. They demanded that one individual take off his American flag merchandise. They stopped people that had plates from places like Texas, assuming that they must be ICE, when in reality it could just be people with rental cars that had Texas plates. Of course, I'm not the first to say it, but the irony of roving left-wing mobs protesting ICE, which is securing borders, saying that they will secure their city by demanding papers and allegiance to people there. Then, of course, what happens is the police shows up afterwards, after the violence has subsided. The Democrat narrative will be like, what violence? What violence? Oh, 1 or 2 bad apples. So let's talk about a little of what's going on. This is actually, believe it or not, a game of political chicken. is what's going on. On one hand, you have the left that is trying to enforce their political will through violence and force. That's what they're doing. Now, it's interesting the way this goes. There's different tiers of this. At the bottom, you have a bunch of malcontents and, largely deranged or like people with psychosis problems. These are the foot soldiers. Now, let's talk about this group of people for a minute. There's a scene from this movie I really like. I consider it a debate movie. It's called Thank You for Smoking, right? And Aaron Eckhart, who you might know as Two-Face from The Dark Knight, he works as a lobbyist for the tobacco industry. And at the beginning of the movie, he's on this like Jerry Springer, Maury Povich type show. And if I'm getting my details correct, there's an anti-smoking guy there, and they're pointing to this guy who's on the stage as well, who's got like lung cancer from smoking. And they're like, look at this man. This man smoked, and now his life's ruined, and he's going to die early. And the anti-smoking guy points to Aaron Eckhart and the smoking lobby and goes, these people want this man to die. And Aaron Eckhart responds, no, we don't. We want him to live to be very old and smoke multiple packs of cigarettes a day. You want him to die. You anti-smoking people. And that's the truth. You see, the truth is, all of Renee Good's friends wanted her to die, or at least wanted her to be severely injured by ice. Imagine what it must be like that your in-group wants you to be harmed so that they could claim martyrdom status. That's what's going on. That's why you'll see, even after Renee Good, punch me, do it. Use your weapon in my face, do it, do it. That's what's going on. These people have been brainwashed. They've been brainwashed. And the people that are brainwashing them, they don't have their best interest in mind. They don't care. It's all good. It is absolutely good if one of their allies gets harmed by a federal agent. Everything that's happening right now is entirely predictable. You have all of these left-wing, and listen, we'll get to it in a second here, but these left-wing people, in addition to that, like, you have these people that have been gaslit to thinking they're fighting the new civil rights movement. This is the March on Selma. This is a march against the brown shirts in Germany. That's how important this is. They are the most important people in the world. They finally are doing something. Maybe it's people with white guilt that have been inundated with white guilt. Now, as white people, they can put their bodies on the line for people of color against this tyrannical dictatorship. Then you have so many people that just can't wait to use violence, to use intimidation. These are people, bullies isn't the right word. Like, that is what they are, but it's worse than that. Now, we've known this if you've looked, and there's been studies that shown this. When you have these woke people that are like demanding pronouns and canceling people, they're just the bullies of yesteryear. They've just changed tactics. Do you ever notice like how like a bunch of people on the left that'll gnash and scream and, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing in the world if you use a homophobic slur or you insult someone's appearance or something like that? That's exactly the first tactic they'll use. They're against body shaming, but oh my goodness, if you argue with them, they'll be like, oh, you must not be well endowed. You must be a homosexual. They'll use racial slurs. They don't give it. They just don't care. This is what they really are. This is what they really want. But they're not capable of being the strong bully themselves. No, they need that veil of authority behind them so that it justifies what they're doing. So now you see, and this has always been the case with these Antifa people, they want violence. That's what they want. So what better than the state sanctioning their violence? We'll just rove the street and beat the shit out of people with impunity. And our leaders, the Democrat leaders, will allow it to go. Then it gets worse. The media will glorify them. The entertainment industry will glorify them. What's the name of this new movie that just came out? Some bullshitter, all the time, like about fighting all the time. I don't know. It's Leo DiCaprio. It's probably going to win an Oscar. What's the plot of it? Left-wing Antifa people nobly fighting against sort of border control type people. One battle after another. Yeah, that's it. It's glorified. Don't worry, though. The local authorities will stand back and allow it to happen. And then if they do arrest you, you'll just have sympathetic judges and juries. The national media will cover for you, just like the Summer of Love with George Floyd. I want you to close your eyes for a minute and imagine this. It's so tiresome. I get it. And I know people are tired of hearing this. Imagine during the Obama or Biden administrations that there was some sort of attempt at federal law enforcement and that right-wingers decided, nope, we don't like that. And so in red cities all across this country, they beat the shit out of federal authorities and beat left-wingers that disagreed with them. And they tipped off the criminals that were being apprehended. What do you think that would look like? The Marines would have been sent in immediately. The media would be in national crisis mode. My God, it's the new Civil War. Look at what the right wing has become. They're evil. They refuse to abide lawful authority. I know this. This isn't hypothetical. I know this because when we had one riot on January 6th, they still talk about it 5 years later. And yet we have to sit there and watch this occur every time that there's a Republican administration that wants to enforce the law. Every single time. You know it. I know it. The left knows it. Everybody knows these riots are going to exist. The media knows it. They don't give a shit. They lie. Oh, no. They aren't riots. It's peaceful. It's all peaceful. It's peaceful. And maybe there was one or two bad apples, but it's peaceful. These left-wingers on the streets want violence. They want to be the authorities. They want to be in charge. And it goes back to something I talk about all the time that I got from Jordan Peterson. When George Orwell's writing The Road to Wigan Pier. And all these socialists pay him to write it. And so the first half of the book, he's like, look how bad these workers have it. And the socialists are like, right, yes. And then the second half of the book, Orwell's like, yeah, but these socialists don't give a shit. They don't care at all. They don't care about what they really want is to be the people in positions of power and authority. But they can't do it through merit. They're not capable. So they've tried a different tactic. We will wear these people, the working class, will wear their pain and suffering as a shield and a cloak. And then use that and attack the people above us so that we get put in positions of power. You have a bunch of left-wingers that supposedly dislike the police and dislike the idea of border enforcement that are literally out there policing and enforcing their own borders. The Somali guy, forget his name, Omar Fatih or Fatah, whatever, get a fucking American name. Anyways, that dude, he's out there yesterday and says, this is a no-go zone for white supremacists. Really? And how do you define white supremacy? A no-go zone, as in we will police our city to say that people that we don't like are not allowed here. He says this as we see violence on a daily basis. Who gets to define what a white supremacist is? For example, am I a white supremacist for saying things like, I don't want to mass import Somalis into my country? I want the Somali fraud investigated? Does that make me a white supremacist? I guess I'm not welcome on an American city. Meanwhile, the left will talk to you about sundown towns. There's certain towns in this country where if you're a person of color, you can't be in after night. As their politicians proudly announce that. Mayor Fry talked about where We're at war. Tim Walz has made all sorts of crazy. And here's the thing. It'll all work out for them. Now, I've been busy, but I'm also lazy. Let's be serious. 3 years from now, we'll be talking about these incidents, and the left's going to gaslight you that they never occurred. Nah, that never happened. And all of our politicians condemned it and said it was wrong. That's what they'll do. And they'll point to some quote from Tim Walz saying, remember everyone, be nonviolent. Ignoring the fact that as they're talking about, we need to stand up to federal law enforcement. Their definition of an insurrection, mind you, that are being done every day. Remember, they said Trump engaged in an insurrection by telling people, hey, I think that the election was stolen. Go peacefully have your voice heard. And then violence broke out one time. Meanwhile, as we see violence occurring every single day, you have these Democratic leaders who are like, we need to declare war on ICE. We need to fight back against this law enforcement. They're the fascists. They're terrible. We need to fight against them every day. Where's the left? Where's all the people that screamed insurrection and engaging in insurrection? All of a sudden, they're silent. Turns out they didn't give a shit about insurrections. Now let's get to the leadership group. You have to tip your cap to the globalist and the face of them, the Democratic Party. They are amazing. They're absolutely amazing. We will laugh at them and say, no one trusts the mainstream media anymore. No one trusts them. And on the aggregate, true. And yet they still shift the tone of this country and the narrative. They can attack with impunity day after day after day after day after day after day after day. And somehow, roughly half this country is like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay. And they'll get away with it too. They will. That's the truth. They do not give a shit. They do not care. The same left-wingers that cried, oh my God, January 6th is a Wednesday. Your friends, the people you talk with online, go ahead, ask them about this. What about all this violence we're seeing now? And by the way, it's been going for months. ICE agents' cars being rammed, being stopped, being attacked. Places like Portland, where Antifa's basically ran the show for years. Ask them about that. You know what they'll say? Those are good people. And what about Trump? What about Trump? What about Trump? They'll have to set the dominoes up, just like they did with George Floyd. In the Floyd thing going into the 2020 election, what they wanted was to call Donald Trump a fascist. So they embraced a system that they knew would mean that there were riots occurring over and over. They were silent. They said they were mostly peaceful. They said the message of the rioters wasn't, a good message still, and it was really just a protest, and don't believe your lying eyes. While they pushed to have you shut down in your home because of the pandemic, they were absolutely okay with people violating the very orders that they wanted to enforce upon you, the legal citizen, going out and engaging in riots and gaslighting you weren't happening. Then you had Democrat mayors and governors that basically had the police standing down. Now this, as I talked about at the time, this led to only a couple possible outcomes. Outcome number one, Trump sends in the National Guard. That's the outcome they wanted. Then they could say, see, this man is a fascist, he's an authoritarian. Outcome number two, Trump doesn't send in the National Guard, and inevitably things reach a tipping point where Americans start to fight Americans. And we saw Kyle Rittenhouse. That was always going to be, they set the dominoes. Now, in each individual confrontation, you may have a low chance of someone being killed or someone having some sort of firearm discharged, etc. But when you have that situation occur thousands upon thousands of times, it's inevitable that a spark will light them and things will catch a flame. That's exactly what we have happening here. The Democrats knew that that there was a movement of people, which they encouraged, that was out there challenging ICE, that they were going to box them in with their cars, that they were going to stop them from apprehending people, and that they were going to increasingly get more and more vocal and more physical with their pushbacks against ICE. And they knew that inevitably, and I talked about this months ago in the show. Months ago, I talked about this. Inevitably, what's going to happen is the law of averages will catch up, and some anti-ICE protester is going to be significantly harmed. And that's exactly what occurred. Then, that gives them the excuse to engage in violence. We get to engage in violence because Renee Good was killed. A woman who was intentionally impeding ICE and then accelerated towards a law enforcement officer. It does not matter that you could see the physical evidence. It doesn't matter. They're going to parse it down. The New York Times put out, if we look at it millisecond by millisecond, as if the law enforcement officer that has a car charging at him as he's in front of it had a millisecond by millisecond view of it. They told the woman to get out of the car multiple times. She backs up to where now the car's basically pointing in front of the guy. But Rob, he moved in front of the car. I don't give a shit. That doesn't give you the right to try to advance through him. Was Renee Good trying to run over this officer? Probably not. Maybe, though. But it's irrelevant to the officer's point of view, who sees this car back up, stop, and then advance towards him. Now they want to point millisecond by millisecond. Well, even if the first shot was legitimate, not the second two. Fuck you. You put yourself in that position. Point being, I don't think this was a bad shooting at all. I think it's tragic. I feel terrible for Renee Good. I feel terrible that she was emotionally manipulated to putting her life on the line. I think in her last moment, she was probably shocked. The whole world's a LARP. All of it's fake. Oh my goodness, consequences? And by the way, less people accuse me, though they could go fuck themselves anyways. I said the same about the January 6th shit. Don't go off LARPing. Well, we're going to refresh the tree of liberty with the blood of tyrants. You're going to go to prison. That's what's going to happen. You see, when you do it on the right, it ain't like when the left does it. They'll throw the fucking book at you. The police will beat you within an inch of your life, and the whole country will celebrate. Then they'll throw your ass in solitary confinement, and they'll withhold evidence that could exonerate you. They don't give a fuck, and they'll get away with it. That's not how it is on the left. Every single institution on down is going to protect these rioters, or at least cover for them. The police will stand bound. The prosecutors will refuse to prosecute or give low-level prosecutions. The judges will be favorable. The juries will be favorable. You don't have that luxury on the right. If I'm on a jury and I see some right-winger that beat the shit out of a left-wing politician or something like that, I'd vote to convict, but not the left. You see, they're more singularly focused than me. They'll say, oh, what was that? You beat a Trump supporter? Not guilty. We could have them blatantly attacking ICE, like the guy who threw the sandwich in D.C. there. Not guilty. There was another I saw, an illegal immigrant rammed an ICE vehicle. Not guilty. Doesn't matter. So they set up the dominoes, inevitably knowing that a spark would be lit. Now they have their excuse to engage in violence. Now, believe it or not, it's all political calculation. Their side is calculating that they can engage in this violence and blame Trump, and that will help them. And it may very well. And that'll help them when it comes to elections. Trump's side is deciding whether or not to send in the military, the National Guard, declare an insurrection act, because as soon as he does, just like we saw in the George Floyd riots, that gives the left exactly what they want. There he is. There's the fascist using the military. There it is. He declared the insurrection act. We told you. Told you. So that's where we're at. And I think it's a mistake. I think that to play political football with this is a mistake. Trump should immediately declare the Insurrection Act, take these people and throw them in fucking prison to the extent of the law allows. I know that left-wing judges and prosecutors and politicians will do everything they can to get these people out of prison. After all, these are their little foot soldiers. But you have to act. What are we supposed to do? This Jake Lang guy, had he been ripped apart? Had he been stabbed to death? Had he not been wearing that vest? Then would it be time to act? Left-wing mobs killing people that disagree with them on the streets? Will none get arrested? Everybody just stands back? Now watch the left not have chance. This guy was an antagonist. As if every single fucking Trump rally where left-wing agitators showed up and there was a fight, they didn't say, you can't do that. But now all of a sudden it'll be, well, you can't go in the city of Minnesota if you support the American flag or if you support ICE. Sorry, you can't go. It's their city now. It's the Somalian city now. At what point do we just say enough's enough? Yeah, whoever you are that's trying to get me to co-host a stream, I'm not doing it on TikTok. They still control the narrative. They're still so good they control the narrative. Imagine it. Imagine that if a group, imagine that like they come to arrest Proud Boys and the Proud Boys beat the shit out of federal officers. Imagine that, right? And the left just goes, well, maybe the federal officers shouldn't have been there. Stay out of the Proud Boys cities. How do you think that would have went over? You see, here's the other problem. What the globalists and the left have decided is that for them to win, all they need to do is suspend the activities of legitimate law enforcement. Don't enforce the border. Don't enforce the law against violent left-wingers. And the right, trying to get back in the game, is like, we need to enforce the borders. This means that the left can protest the law enforcement actions against deporting people, but what's the right going to protest? What are you going to protest? Sure, there's law enforcement going after hyper-specific people on the right, like January 6 people, the couple thousand of them, but other than that, what are you going to do? There is no left-wing law enforcement apparatus that's going into major cities because there's law breaking to a major level coming up against groups affiliated with right-wing groups like there are with the illegals. So what are you going to do? Our protest is like, fuck you, Biden. Yeah, we had January 6th. Yes, people engaged in violence, fine, whatever. But the lesson learned, and this is what people will never be honest about, and I talked about this the entire summer of love, the lesson that was taught the average American is, if you do not like the rules, you can riot. Over and over. It's mostly peaceful. It's all good. Then on January 6th, it's my sincere belief, and as I believe we find out more, that there was an intentionality to law enforcement to allow things to escalate. But nonetheless, let's take that aside. You have that one incident. Hundreds of incidents of left-wing political violence, riots on the street. Almost all of them. It's mostly peaceful. Go ahead. Go back. And then here's what will happen. They'll arrest people. And then you don't find out till years later what was the ultimate consequence. Well, they got 3 months probation for beating the shit out of that police officer and beating people. Well, the charges were dropped. Well, actually, the city paid a settlement to them for arresting them. And then it's out of the news cycle. We've moved on to something else. But boy, oh boy, if the right engages in an act of violence even once, holy shit, then that's the end of the world. I see you on TikTok. What about the pardons? What about the pardons, says these people. Right. 1,500 pardons, 1,500 pardons, 1,500 pardons, 1,500 pardons. Right, we get that. The left doesn't need to pardon people because the whole system's set up to allow them to get away with it. More law enforcement officers were harmed during the George Floyd protests exponentially than they were during January 6th. How many of them were charged? Very few. You see the game they play, and they know it. And these people like this person that's screaming about all it is whataboutism. You can see left-wing attacks every day, before January 6th and after January 6th. And there's always going to be an excuse why they get away with it. Always. Now it's January 6th. For the next 50 years, it'll be, yeah, but January 6th. Okay, can we get over that? There's been 7,000 violent left-wing riots since then. Yeah, but January 6th. But January 6th. You don't have to pardon people when the entire system's set up to allow them to act with impunity. And that's exactly what the left wants. Go to TikTok right now and see what the left is. Trump Epstein, Trump's a felon. They have nothing. They absolutely have nothing. And they know. And it's actually, I actually commend you, people on the left that say things like that. I do. I actually commend you. Because they know they're winning. And it's good. They're thumping in you. Yeah, we'll beat you. We'll punch you in the face and go, but what about January 6th? What about that? Huh? They were violent. How about that? Huh? It's smart. It's very smart. They know they could get away with it. They absolutely know it. And so they're going to keep doing it. And so, we'll see. We'll see how many people have to die. We'll see how many ICE officers, and make no mistake, they're going to arrest ICE officers if they win. They're going to. Make no mistake. So, I don't know much about Jake Lang, but I hope him and the other innocent people that were beaten yesterday get a full recovery. I hope that Trump sends in the National Guard and sends these people that are engaged in these willful acts of violence against legitimate law enforcement and against citizens of this country in the way that we see going on in places like Minneapolis. I hope that they send in and throw these people in prison, hopefully for the rest of their lives, at least to the whatever the law. I don't want anything that's illegal, but whatever the legal maximum is that these people could get. This is the only chance we have of solving this without actual citizen-on-citizen violence. That these people be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. It's the only thing possible. So let's hope that occurs. So, all right, let's read some super chats real quick. Now's your chance to get in super chats. I do have to wrap up early today. AJC, $50, says, take my money. Love you'll be a part of the TikTok stuff. This year will be great for you. Enjoy the birthday party. God bless. Thank you so much. Incredibly generous. $50. Thank you so much, AJC. Frank, for $5, says, if it was only like 1v8 situation we saw on the extravaganza. Yeah. That's good. Blood and soil. And soul. We're past the point of debating ideas. We've lost the info war. We are losing. And while we talk, we are losing ground. It's time for acting. Well, Trump needs to do some sort of action. Yeah, they're ushering in the police state that they constantly spoke about. Right. Their bargain is this. If you win, we get to engage in acts of violence because you're a fascist. And if you use law enforcement to protect against our acts of violence, that proves that you're a fascist. That's it. That's their claim. That's their claim. Now, luckily, we happen to not only be right, but we're also smarter than these lefties. So as we start these TikTok sieges, all of these people you see on TikTok that are tough guys, well, January 6th, they'll have their chance to call in and get wrecked, and they know it, which is why they'll remain random anonymous TikTokers. We get it. All of these people that you see on TikTok like this, we welcome. We willfully step into your cesspit, and we will take your ideas down. And it'll be fun to do so. These are anonymous trolls that, as you can see, objective reality. So many of these people on the left actually have significant mental illness diagnosis. These are people that will never succeed in life, and so they're looking for something to clamor onto. And so they get the fake cause of, oh, we're sticking up against, evil president, et cetera, because they'll never amount to shit in their life. And to the extent they do, probably the truth is that their mental illness and their sort of certainty of their attitudes and their willfully to embrace violence probably shows a picture that these are people that no one really likes anyways. Unhappy, terrible souls, hiding under the shield of anonymity, that could repeat only slogans because they're incapable of defending their ideas. And I'll be more than happy to smack each and every one of them down. Each and every one. It will be fun. So, all right, last chance to get super chats in. Let's see if there's anyone I could raid over to. As I said, I have a birthday party to get to today, so it should be a lot of fun. Quiet you, headset. Mm-hmm. All right. That should work. What's up, everyone over on Rumble as well? Good to see you. All right. Here for the raid. Nice. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I should be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. I'll be doing my regular show with Ryan Mullally, Law and Order. So that'll be at 8 p.m. And then I might be doing a TikTok siege with Andrew Wilson at some time before then. So stay safe out there. Oh, a couple more super chats. Nerve Striking says, need to hold the lefties accountable. Too many soy boy losers with stupid hats think they can ask other men to take their clothes off and call names. Yep. Oh, look, some of it. Dib says, LOL, pathetic, Rob. Sad, really. Sad. Yes, it's sad. What's, by the way, what's sad? Answer what question? I didn't see the question, Mother Bates. Ask the question and I'll happily answer it. A little slow in the typing, old Mother Bates here, huh? Let's answer a TikTok's question. Here we go. What are we gonna get? Trump Epstein? Is that what we're gonna get? What do you think this brilliant question that I wouldn't answer is? Nothing? That's what I thought. Please defend what? What do you want me to defend? He's actively breaking the law by not releasing the files. That's not true. The way that this was, first off, they released plenty of the files. Secondly, let them take it to court and see that. Third, you had no problem when Democrats actually embraced this. Barack Obama gave a sweetheart deal to Jeffrey Epstein. All of you Democrats supported that. Barack Obama did not rearrest Epstein. They allowed him to get away with impunity, including having the record sealed. It was during the first Trump administration where Epstein was actually brought to justice and arrested. Then during the Biden administration, none of the files were released. People that we see that have prominently been released in the files are people connected to Democrats, including Democrat Congress people that were literally on the phone with Epstein while they were doing testimony against Trump, including people like Hakeem Jeffries that was reaching out to Epstein after he was already convicted of these crimes, suggesting fundraiser dinners with him and Barack Obama. Democrats didn't give a shit about this. Now Donald Trump is doing the same thing that we saw with Joe Biden is that he's not releasing everything, though he's released far more than were released under Joe Biden. Meanwhile, Democrats had no problem, as the person they voted for, Joe Biden, continued to sniff the hair of every little child that came into contact with him, and, in the words of his own daughter's diary, took inappropriate showers with his daughter. And Democrats didn't give a shit. Did not care. You were saying? I could see you, Mother Jones. I can't read one comment higher. Maybe your comments are violating TikTok's terms of service. Here's the order I have. Mother Bates says, answer the question. Mother Bates put smiley face. Lee says, top Democrats don't give a shit about the citizens. Dibbs says, please defend that. Unpaid Resistance says he's breaking law by not releasing the files. I've read that. Dibbs says, Rob can't read one comment higher. I did. Dibbs says it was state charges. Right, it was state charges that occurred during the Trump administration. Why weren't there any federal charges under the Obama administration? Why weren't there any federal charges during the Biden administration? The only time that Epstein was held to account was while Trump was in office. The Transparency Act gives them 30 days. Where are they? I don't know. Take them to court. We'll see. They have released. What are the files that you want released? They've released many of the files. Judges are protecting the release of some of the files. The Democrats do not give a shit about the files. They don't give a fuck. The random anonymous TikTokers that are screaming about the files, they're random for a reason, because they can't put their beliefs out there, because you would see that they are incoherent and partisan beliefs. They didn't say shit all about the Epstein files during the Biden administration. They didn't give a shit. They were happy. Now that we've received prominent Democrats, they're connected to them. Remember, Democrats tried to selectively release. Remember that email from Epstein to Ghislaine? The dog that's not barking's Trump. He was in the room with redacted. And it turned out that was Virginia Giuffre, who had publicly said that Trump didn't do anything. And so then the context of that email that Democrats selectively released with the selective redaction, the context was Epstein saying, I wonder who's cooperating with the feds. You know who hasn't talked? Trump. And he was with Virginia Giuffre, who we know cooperated with the feds. But Democrats tried to spin that as proof that somehow Trump was bad. Meanwhile, when we have the actual evidence of Democrats reaching out, like Hakeem Jeffries, in the name of Barack Obama reaching out, Democrats silent. Don't give a shit. And someone asked if I'm a MAP, which is code for minor attractive person. I am not. Now let's answer the question to you, Mother Bates. Did you take inappropriate showers with children like your hero Joe Biden? Do you sniff their hair? Is that what you do? Is that what you do, Mother Bates? Answer the question. Answer the question, Mother Bates. Why don't you answer the question? Is that something you liked when you saw Joe Biden? Making those children uncomfortable? Answer the question, Mother Bates. Why can't you answer the question? That's odd. Incapable of answering the question. Huh. Strange. You should see the picture of this woman, too. She's quite the looker, I assure you. I get it. I already did. Oh, you already did inappropriate. Wow, Mother Bates, you already inappropriately showered with young children? You already did that? You already did that, Mother Bates. My goodness, I just don't know. I don't know that we want someone. Sorry, Mother Bates. We don't like people that assault children in the chat like you. So we're going to ask you to leave. That's terrible. Horrible, horrible acts. You got to watch out for these TikTokers. They'll proudly announce. They'll accuse you of what they themselves do and then proudly announce how they attack children. Interesting. Anyways, thank you all for the super chats and everything today. I will see you all tomorrow around 10 p.m. Enjoy this raid. We're going to raid JS Urban Adventures. I think he's doing a debate review, so enjoy that. And we'll talk to you all soon. So see you at 8 p.m. tomorrow, if nothing else. As always, have a good one. And please, remember the memory of Charlie Kirk, how the left celebrated it. Just same people you see that are cheering on the violence right now in Minneapolis celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. So please, say a prayer for him and his family. We'll appreciate it. All right, we'll talk to you all soon, as always.
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.